What happens whenever you give an outlaw Scotsman a new ship and tell him to help the American cause in any way he can? Well, we're actually going to be exploring that on today's episode. I'm Christian Murray, and this is the Founders Club. It was the 23rd of September 1779, and Scottish Continental Naval Officer John Paul Jones was trying to create as much havoc as possible on the east coast of Britain. Now, John Paul Jones has an interesting past. He always believed he was destined for something great, and he was going to do whatever it took to achieve that greatness. He is quoted saying, "It seems to be the law of nature, inflexible and inexorable, that those who will not risk cannot win." John Paul Jones was a commander in the British Navy, and his name was just John Paul, until he killed one of his crew for trying to start a mutiny. He then fled to America as an outlaw. There he changed his name to John Paul Jones and joined the patriotic cause. He was ordered to help the cause in any way possible, so he started attacking British vessels. He actually took it a step further and sailed to Britain to attack vessels in English waters. He literally sailed to Britain to prove that they were vulnerable. The British thought of him like a pirate, and this was mainly due to his tactics. They drew him in articles and made him look like Blackbeard, and they actually were asking in these articles, "Where is the British Navy?" After some success, he was given new ships by the French. He named his vessel and flagship Bonhomme Richard after the Poor Richard's Almanac to honor Benjamin Franklin. By September, only 4 ships remained: the Bonhomme Richard, the Alliance, the Pallas, and the Vengeance. John Paul Jones continued to create havoc around the coast of Britain. On the 23rd of September, he saw some British merchant ships that were perfect targets. Jones sailed into the bay, but before he actually could attack these British merchant ships, 2 British escorts sailed between them, allowing the merchant ships to escape. The 2 British escort ships were the Serapis and the Countess of Scarborough. Jones's plan was to sail in a straight line to use his total strength and fire on one side to devastate the British escorts. The French captain on board the Alliance chose not to follow his order. He had a lot more training in naval tactics and chose to sail away from the rest of the fleet to separate the 2 ships, which worked. The battle took place in the moonlight, and it attracted thousands of British citizens. As they looked on, they saw these ships being illuminated by the moon and lit up with the flashes of the cannons and explosions. John Paul Jones was going to give them a show. After hours of battle, the Serapis hit the Bonhomme Richard hard and killed a lot of their men while critically damaging the ship. Jones knew he was in trouble, and so he wanted to board the Serapis. He rammed the Serapis so that both ships were completely entangled. Many of Jones's officers begged him to surrender, but the stubborn Scotsman refused, and when one of his officers tried to, Jones clobbered him with a pistol and continued the battle. Jones was manning one of his own cannons when Captain Pearson of the Serapis yelled at Jones to strip his colors and surrender, which prompted Jones to yell, "I have not yet begun to fight." The British tried to board the Bonhomme Richard, but they were met with Jones's hidden defense force. The Serapis mast finally fell over, and Jones wanted to make the situation too hot for the British. One of Jones's men, William Hamilton, ventured above the Serapis until he could almost look straight down on the deck of the ship, and he began to drop grenades on them. As the grenades blew up, it scattered burning gunpowder, setting off other charges nearby, and ultimately, the chain reaction covered the entire rear half of the Serapis's lower gun deck. Captain Pearson understood that with the Countess of Scarborough being defeated, many of his crew dead or injured, his rigging and sails too badly damaged to make a speedy getaway, he could neither win nor escape. He had no hope of defeating the stubborn Scotsman, and so the Serapis surrendered. The Bonhomme Richard finally sank, and so John Paul Jones took charge and repaired the Serapis. To the Americans, he'd be known as a hero, but to the British, he'd be known as a pirate. This truly was one of his greatest moments. But what do you guys think? We always want to know your thoughts below. That's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you like the channel and want to become a Founders Club member, hit that subscribe button. You can also check out our website and other forms of social media below. And like always, history is a great story that needs to be told. So tell it.